The gavel hit the wooden block 3 times. Bail is granted. My stomach dropped like I'd fallen off a cliff. Around me, the courtroom exploded in whispers and gasps. Camera flashes went off like fireworks. The man who killed my brother turned around slowly and looked right at me. His smile was cold and mean. I could see dried blood on his shirt sleeve that his fancy lawyer had missed. My throat felt like sandpaper. My hands shook against the hard wooden bench. Every part of me wanted to jump up and scream at the judge. Instead, I sat there like a statue, calm on the outside, dying on the inside. When the guard unlocked his handcuffs, his grin got even bigger. He walked past my row and stopped right next to me. He leaned down and whispered in my ear, "I told you, honey. Money always wins." The smell of his cologne made me sick. I watched him walk toward the exit doors like he owned the place. His expensive shoes clicked on the marble floor. Each step felt like another punch to my heart. My brother was dead, and this monster was going home tonight. I didn't yell. I didn't fall apart crying. I just whispered back, "You're going to wish you stayed in that jail cell." Most people think anger is loud and messy. They're completely wrong. Real anger is quiet and sharp like a surgeon's knife. It waits for the perfect moment. It plans every single move. The reporters rushed toward me with their cameras and microphones. They wanted to see me break down. They wanted tears and screaming for their evening news. I wasn't going to give them what they wanted. I stood up straight and walked toward the back exit. My lawyer tried to follow me. "We can appeal this decision," he said. His voice sounded tired and defeated. I stopped walking and turned around. "No appeals. No more courtrooms. Not yet." He looked confused. "What do you mean?" I didn't answer him. I pushed through the heavy wooden doors and stepped into the bright afternoon sunlight. The fresh air hit my face, but I still felt like I was drowning. Everything had changed in that courtroom. The system had failed my brother. Now I had to find another way. Let me tell you exactly what happened and how I got my revenge. My name is Victoria Palmer. I'm 31 years old and work as a paramedic in Denver. I've seen more blood and death than most people see in 10 lifetimes. I thought nothing could shock me anymore. I was wrong. 2 months ago, my little brother Alex was murdered in cold blood. He was only 25 years old. Alex had the biggest heart of anyone I knew. He would give his last dollar to help a stranger. He rescued stray dogs and volunteered at the homeless shelter every weekend. The night he died, Alex was trying to sell his motorcycle. It was a beautiful blue Harley that he'd spent 2 years fixing up. He needed money for his wedding next month. His fiancée Maria was pregnant with their first baby. They were going to name the baby after our dad. Alex posted the bike online and got a message from someone interested. They agreed to meet in a parking lot downtown. Alex thought he was meeting a regular buyer. Instead, he met his killer. The whole thing was caught on security cameras from the store across the street. The video showed everything. Alex arrived first and waited by his motorcycle. He was wearing his lucky red jacket and checking his phone, probably texting Maria about the sale. At 8:30, a black car pulled up. A man got out and walked over to Alex. They talked for a few minutes. Alex showed him the bike and handed over the keys so the guy could test it. Everything seemed normal and friendly. But when Alex asked for the money, the man pulled out a gun. Alex raised his hands in the air. You could see him trying to calm the situation down. He was saying something, probably offering to just give the guy the bike. Alex wasn't a fighter. He always tried to solve problems with words. The man shot him anyway. 3 times in the chest. Then he calmly got on Alex's motorcycle and drove away. He left my brother bleeding to death on the cold concrete. A few people saw what happened, but nobody tried to help. They just stood there filming with their phones. By the time the ambulance arrived, Alex was already gone. I was working that night, but I was across town. I couldn't save him. The killer's name was Vincent Torres. He owned 3 car dealerships around the city. He sold expensive sports cars to rich people. He lived in a huge house with a pool and drove a different luxury car every day of the week. When the police arrested him, Vincent claimed it was self-defense. He said Alex tried to rob him. He said he feared for his life. It was all lies, but his lawyer was very good at telling lies. The video clearly showed Alex never threatened him. Alex never even moved toward Vincent. But Vincent's lawyer said the video quality was poor. He said you couldn't really see what happened before the shooting. Vincent's story kept changing. First he said Alex had a weapon. Then he said Alex was working with other people to rob him. Then he said Alex tried to grab his gun. None of it was true, but the lawyer kept saying it anyway. Meanwhile, Vincent's car dealership stayed open. He kept selling cars and making money. He acted like nothing had happened. He posted on social media about his business success. He even went to fancy parties and smiled for photos. It made me sick to my stomach. 3 weeks after Alex died, Vincent did something that made my blood boil. He went on the evening news for an interview. He sat in his perfect office wearing an expensive suit. Behind him were awards and photos of luxury cars. The reporter asked him about the shooting. Vincent put on a sad face and said, "This whole situation is a tragedy. I pray for the family every night. But I had to protect myself." He called Alex troubled and dangerous. He said Alex had a history of violence, which was completely false. Alex had never been in a fight in his entire life. The worst thing Alex ever did was get a speeding ticket. But Vincent's lies worked. People started believing him. Comments on news websites said Alex deserved what happened. They said Vincent was a hero for defending himself. Then Vincent did something even worse. He started a charity fund called Alex Palmer Memorial Foundation. He said it was to help victims of street violence. He put Alex's photo on flyers and websites. He used my dead brother's face to make himself look good. The worst part was how much money he raised. Rich people loved the story of a successful businessman helping the community. They wrote big checks to Vincent's fake charity. I knew I had to testify at the trial. The prosecutor said my testimony was important. She said the jury needed to hear about who Alex really was. They needed to know he wasn't the dangerous person Vincent claimed. I spent hours preparing. I practiced telling stories about Alex's kindness. I brought photos of him helping at the homeless shelter. I had letters from people he'd helped over the years. The day I testified, the courtroom was packed. Maria sat in the front row with her growing belly. Alex's friends filled 3 whole rows. I could see Vincent at the defense table wearing another expensive suit. I told the jury everything. I explained how gentle Alex was. I described his volunteer work and his love for animals. I showed them photos of him building houses for poor families. I made sure they understood that Alex would never hurt anyone. Vincent's lawyer tried to make me look emotional and unreliable. He asked me mean questions about Alex's personal life. He suggested I was lying to protect my brother's reputation. But I stayed calm and answered every question honestly. When I finished, several jury members were crying. I thought we had won. Then Vincent's lawyer did something that changed everything. During the lunch break, I saw Vincent's lawyer talking to someone outside the courthouse. It was Judge Patterson's campaign manager. They shook hands and exchanged an envelope. I followed them at a distance. The campaign manager went straight to a bank. I watched through the window as he made a large deposit. When he came out, he was smiling and talking on his phone. That afternoon, Vincent's lawyer made a motion for bail. He argued that Vincent was a respected businessman with strong community ties. He mentioned Vincent's charity work and his economic contribution to the city. The prosecutor fought hard against bail. She said Vincent was a flight risk with enough money to disappear. She reminded the judge that this was a murder case with clear video evidence. But something had changed in Judge Patterson's attitude. He seemed distracted and kept checking his phone. When Vincent's lawyer finished speaking, the judge barely waited before making his decision. Bail is granted in the amount of $2 million. The courtroom exploded in angry voices. Maria started crying so hard she had to be helped outside. I sat there in shock, watching Vincent's family celebrate like they'd won the lottery. Vincent walked out of that courtroom a free man. Everyone told me to accept the judge's decision. My lawyer said we could still win at trial. The prosecutor promised to work twice as hard. Friends said I should focus on healing and moving on with my life. But I couldn't move on. Every night, I saw Vincent's smug face when he whispered to me in court. I heard his lies about Alex on repeat in my head. I thought about him sleeping in his comfortable bed while Alex was buried in the cold ground. I went back to work driving ambulances. I saved other people's lives while my brother's killer walked free. I put on my uniform every day and pretended everything was normal. But inside I was planning. I started researching Vincent Torres. I learned everything about his businesses, his family, his habits. I drove past his dealerships and his house. I read every article about him online. I studied his charity foundation's tax documents. That's when I started finding things that didn't add up. Numbers that were wrong. Donations that went to strange places. Expenses that made no sense. Vincent Torres wasn't just a killer. He was also a thief. My first big discovery came by accident. I was treating a car accident victim who mentioned buying his new motorcycle from a charity auction. He said he got a great deal through something called the Alex Palmer Memorial Foundation. I asked him to describe the motorcycle. Blue Harley. Same year as Alex's bike. Same modifications Alex had made. When I asked for the vehicle identification number, my heart almost stopped. It was Alex's motorcycle. The same bike Vincent stole after murdering my brother. Vincent had donated Alex's own motorcycle to his fake charity. Then the charity sold it at auction. Vincent probably got a tax write-off for donating stolen property. He was making money off my brother's death twice. I started digging deeper into the foundation's records. I found dozens of vehicles that had been donated and then sold. Many of them matched police reports for stolen cars. Vincent was running a vehicle laundering operation disguised as charity work. But it got worse. I found fake donor names on the foundation's tax forms. People who didn't exist had supposedly given large donations. Vincent was creating fake donors to hide where money was really coming from. The foundation was just a front for washing stolen money and stolen cars. The most heartbreaking discovery was about Maria, Alex's fiancée. 2 months after Alex died, she got a job with the Alex Palmer Memorial Foundation. She thought she was honoring Alex's memory by helping victims of violence. Vincent hired her as the foundation's public relations manager. She organized fundraising events and wrote newsletters about helping crime victims. Maria believed she was doing something good with her grief. But Vincent was paying her salary with stolen money. Every dollar Maria earned came from Vincent's criminal activities. He was using Alex's pregnant fiancée to make his fake charity look real. Maria had no idea. She thought Vincent was a good man who wanted to help people like Alex. She even defended him when other people criticized him online. She said the foundation was proof that Vincent felt terrible about what happened. Seeing Maria work for Alex's killer while pregnant with Alex's baby was like watching someone pour salt in an open wound. Vincent wasn't just destroying my family. He was making us help him do it. I knew I had to tell Maria the truth. But first I needed proof that would hold up in court. I needed help from someone who understood financial crimes. I remembered treating a police detective named Frank Morrison 2 years ago. He'd been shot during a robbery and almost died. I'd worked on him for an hour to keep him alive until we reached the hospital. Frank owed me his life and he knew it. When I called him, he agreed to meet me for coffee. I told him everything I'd discovered about Vincent's foundation. I showed him the vehicle identification numbers and the fake donor records. Frank whistled when he saw the evidence. "This is bigger than just murder," he said. "This guy is running a major fraud operation." Frank introduced me to a forensic accountant named Kelly Williams. Kelly specialized in tracking money through fake charities and shell companies. She agreed to help me build a case against Vincent. We spent 6 months gathering evidence. Kelly traced every donation and every expense through the foundation's books. We found connections between Vincent's car dealerships and the charity that proved he was moving money illegally. I learned to use special software to record phone calls legally. Every time Vincent called about the foundation, I documented everything. We built timestamps and transcripts for every conversation. Kelly found bank accounts in other states that Vincent used to hide money from the foundation. During our investigation, I learned everything about Vincent's personality. He was incredibly proud and loved attention. He gave speeches at business events and always made sure photographers were there. He posted constantly on social media about his success. Vincent's biggest weakness was his ego. He couldn't resist being the center of attention. He loved when newspapers wrote articles about his business achievements. He especially loved being praised for his charity work. Kelly suggested we quietly report our findings to the Internal Revenue Service. Tax fraud was easier to prove than murder, and the penalties could be severe. But I wanted more than a quiet investigation. I wanted Vincent's crimes exposed in public, the same way he'd publicly lied about Alex. I wanted his reputation destroyed the same way he'd tried to destroy Alex's memory. I decided to use Vincent's love of attention against him. I would let him dig his own grave in front of cameras and reporters. Kelly helped me file a whistleblower complaint with the IRS. The same law that Vincent used to create his fake foundation would be the law that brought him down. Now I just had to wait for the perfect opportunity. That opportunity came when Vincent announced a special memorial fundraiser for the Alex Palmer Memorial Foundation. It would be held at the city's fanciest hotel. Local news stations planned to cover the event live. Vincent sent out hundreds of invitations to wealthy donors and business leaders. The invitation showed Alex's photo and talked about continuing his legacy of helping others. Reading those words made me feel sick. I bought a ticket to the fundraiser. I donated exactly $1 to the foundation, which was the minimum amount required to be listed as a supporter. That $1 donation gave me the right to attend as an official foundation contributor. For weeks, I prepared for that night. Kelly helped me organize all our evidence into a clear presentation. We had bank statements, vehicle records, fake donor documents, and trace money transfers. I practiced my speech dozens of times. I had to stay calm and professional. If I seemed too emotional, people might dismiss what I was saying as grief-driven accusations. The night before the fundraiser, I barely slept. I kept thinking about Alex and how proud he would be that I was fighting for the truth. I thought about Maria and her unborn baby. They deserved to know who Vincent really was. The fundraiser was held in the hotel's biggest ballroom. Golden decorations hung from the ceiling. Round tables filled the room, each one set with expensive china and crystal glasses. A huge photo of Alex smiling hung behind the main stage. Vincent wore a perfect black suit and moved through the crowd like a politician. He shook hands and posed for photos. Everyone treated him like a hero who'd overcome tragedy to help others. I sat at a table near the back and watched him work the room. Several times, Vincent looked in my direction, but he didn't recognize me. I changed my hair and was wearing glasses and formal clothes. When Vincent took the stage to give his speech, the room went quiet. He stood in front of Alex's photo and talked about the importance of helping crime victims. He said the foundation had raised over $500,000. To Alex Palmer, Vincent said, raising his champagne glass. A young man whose memory inspires us all to be better. The crowd raised their glasses and toasted my dead brother. That was my signal to move. I stood up and walked toward the front of the room. Before everyone drinks to Alex's memory, I said in a clear, loud voice, maybe the donors should know the whole truth about this foundation. The room went completely silent. Vincent froze with his glass halfway to his mouth. His smile disappeared instantly. I walked up to the microphone and opened the folder I'd been carrying. My name is Victoria Palmer. Alex Palmer was my brother. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Reporters who'd been taking pictures suddenly started paying close attention. Vincent's face went pale. 6 months ago, Vincent Torres shot and killed my brother, then stole his motorcycle. Tonight, you're being asked to donate money to a charity that's actually a criminal organization. I connected my laptop to the projector behind me. Alex's photo disappeared and was replaced by bank statements showing illegal money transfers. Every dollar you've donated has been stolen or misdirected. The vehicles being auctioned by this foundation are stolen property. The donor names on your tax documents are fake. The crowd started murmuring and pointing at the screen. Reporters rushed toward the stage with their cameras. Vincent stood frozen like a deer in headlights. I showed them everything Kelly and I had found. Vincent tried to laugh it off at first. He stepped up to a second microphone and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this woman is my victim's sister. She's obviously still grieving and confused about what really happened." His voice sounded shaky and nervous. The confident businessman was starting to crack. Victoria has been harassing me for months, Vincent continued. She can't accept that her brother made some bad choices that night. Now she's making up stories to deal with her grief. But I was ready for his lies. I pressed a button on my laptop and played a recorded phone call. Vincent's voice filled the ballroom as he discussed moving money between accounts to hide it from investigators. That recording was made legally with proper timestamps, I announced. I have dozens more just like it. The crowd started talking louder. Some people got up from their tables and moved closer to see the evidence on the screen. Vincent's supporters began looking uncomfortable. Then something happened that I hadn't planned for. An IRS agent who'd been sitting at one of the donor tables stood up and walked toward the stage. I'd given the IRS a tip that morning, but I didn't know they'd actually send someone to the event. Vincent Torres, the IRS agent said, showing his badge. I'm Agent Peterson. We need to talk about your foundation's tax filings. Vincent's face went from pale to completely white. His fancy lawyer jumped up from his table and started walking toward the stage. This is inappropriate, the lawyer said. My client is in the middle of a charity event. Agent Peterson smiled. Actually, this is the perfect time. All these donors deserve to know how their money has been used. The reporters were having a field day. Cameras flashed constantly. TV news crews moved their equipment for better angles. This was going to be the lead story on every channel. I stepped back from the microphone and let Agent Peterson take over. He announced that the IRS had been investigating the Alex Palmer Memorial Foundation for 3 months. They'd found evidence of tax fraud, money laundering, and theft. Vincent tried to leave through a side exit, but 2 more federal agents were waiting there. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, probably telling him not to say anything. The Golden Ballroom had turned into a crime scene. Vincent's perfect charity event had become his public downfall. Within 2 hours, Vincent was back in handcuffs. This time, there was no bail hearing. Federal charges don't allow bail for flight risks, and Vincent definitely qualified as a flight risk. Judge Patterson recused himself from the case after the FBI started investigating his campaign donations. A new judge was assigned, and she wasn't interested in Vincent's money or influence. The local news ran the story every hour for the next 3 days. They showed the video of Vincent being arrested at his own fundraiser. They played clips of my speech exposing his crimes. They interviewed people who donated money to the fake foundation. Vincent's 3 car dealerships were shut down while federal agents searched them. They found more stolen vehicles and evidence of other crimes. Vincent's business empire was collapsing. His wife filed for divorce and moved out of their mansion with their children. His business partners distanced themselves from him. His country club revoked his membership. The mighty Vincent Torres had become a social outcast overnight. Maria came to see me the day after the fundraiser. She was crying when she arrived at my apartment. I'm so sorry, she said. I thought I was helping Alex's memory. I didn't know Vincent was lying about everything. Maria and I hugged for the first time since Alex's funeral. We'd both been victims of Vincent's manipulation. He'd used our grief against us, but now we could heal together. I should have seen the truth, Maria said. How could I work for the man who killed Alex? I took her hands. Vincent is very good at lying. He fooled a lot of people smarter than us. What matters is that now everyone knows who he really is. Maria decided to keep the baby's name. She would name her son Alex Jr., just like she and Alex had planned. She said she wanted the baby to grow up knowing about his father's kindness and courage. Over the next few weeks, more victims came forward. People who'd had cars stolen contacted the police when they saw news coverage about Vincent's vehicle laundering operation. Several other fake charities were discovered. Vincent had been running criminal schemes for years. The Alex Palmer Memorial Foundation was just his latest con job. The prosecutor in the murder case said my investigation had uncovered evidence that would guarantee a conviction. Vincent's fake charity work could no longer be used to make him look like a good person. Justice was finally going to happen. Vincent's criminal empire completely fell apart. The IRS seized all his property to pay back taxes and penalties. His 3 car dealerships were sold at auction. His mansion was foreclosed on. Federal agents found overseas bank accounts where Vincent had hidden millions of dollars. That money was frozen and would be returned to his victims. The fake Alex Palmer Memorial Foundation was shut down permanently. All the remaining money in its accounts was given to real crime victim organizations. Local newspapers ran a series of articles about how Vincent had fooled so many people. They interviewed business leaders who'd praised him just weeks earlier. Everyone claimed they'd had doubts about him all along. Vincent tried to make a plea deal with prosecutors. His lawyer offered to provide information about other criminals in exchange for a lighter sentence. But the prosecutor wasn't interested in deals. The evidence was too strong, and the public was watching too closely. Mr. Torres will face the full consequences of his actions, she announced at a press conference. Vincent's trial was scheduled for 6 months later. This time, he would stay in jail until then. In a desperate attempt to save himself, Vincent tried to contact me directly. His lawyer delivered a handwritten letter to my apartment. Vincent was trying to apologize and ask for my understanding and forgiveness. The letter was pathetic. Vincent claimed he'd never meant to hurt anyone. He said killing Alex was an accident, and that the charity fraud started as a way to help real victims. He begged me to speak to the prosecutor on his behalf. But Vincent made a crucial mistake in that letter. He admitted to hiding assets in offshore accounts that the FBI hadn't found yet. He thought he was proving his willingness to cooperate. I immediately turned the letter over to the district attorney. Vincent's admission about hidden assets added more charges to his case and guaranteed an even longer prison sentence. His own words had sealed his fate. Vincent's ego and desperation had made him confess to crimes the government couldn't have proved otherwise. The man who'd thought he was smarter than everyone else had outsmarted himself. 8 months after Alex's death, I stood in front of a different crowd. This time, I was launching the Real Alex Palmer Legal Defense Fund. We would help crime victims navigate the legal system and expose corrupt officials. The room was filled with families who'd lost loved ones to violence. They understood the pain of watching killers walk free on technicalities. They knew what it felt like when money seemed to matter more than justice. I spoke about Alex's kindness and his belief that everyone deserved help. I explained how we would use legal resources to fight for victims who couldn't fight for themselves. My brother believed that good people should stand up for each other. I said, this fund will make sure his belief lives on. Maria was there with baby Alex Jr., who was now 3 months old. He had his father's dark hair and gentle eyes. Maria was studying to become a victims' rights advocate. Several police officers and prosecutors attended the launch event. They promised to work with our fund to identify cases where justice had been corrupted by money or influence. For the first time in months, I could say Alex's name without feeling like my heart was breaking. His death would always hurt, but now it had meaning beyond just loss. The day of Vincent's sentencing finally arrived. I sat in the same courtroom where he'd winked at me after getting bail. This time, everything was different. Vincent wore an orange jail uniform instead of an expensive suit. His hair was messy and he looked like he'd lost 20 pounds. His confident smile was gone forever. The judge read the charges and the evidence. Tax fraud, money laundering, vehicle theft, murder in the first degree. The list went on for 10 minutes. Vincent Torres, the judge said, you have used your position and wealth to prey on victims and their families. You have corrupted charitable work and undermined public trust in the justice system. She sentenced him to 35 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. Vincent would die behind bars. There were no cameras this time. No reporters asking for statements. Just quiet justice being served. Vincent's family wasn't there to support him. His lawyer looked relieved that the case was finally over. When the guards led Vincent away in shackles, he didn't look at me. His arrogance was completely gone. I returned to that same courtroom 6 months later. This time, I was there to watch another victim testify against a corrupt businessman. My legal fund had helped build the case against him. The victim was a young mother whose husband had been killed in a hit-and-run accident. The driver had used his political connections to avoid charges for 2 years. But our investigators had uncovered evidence of the cover-up. I sat in the gallery and watched the woman tell her story. She was nervous but determined. Her voice was strong when she described how her husband had died. This time, the judge listened carefully to every word. There were no secret envelopes or suspicious donations. Justice was working the way it was supposed to work. After the hearing, the young mother thanked me for helping her find the truth. "I didn't think anyone would listen to me," she said. I smiled and thought about Alex. He would have been proud to see his memory helping other families find justice. The man who'd killed my brother had walked out of this courthouse thinking he'd beaten the system. He'd been wrong. He'd only given me time to build a better system. Vincent Torres thought money always wins. But he forgot that truth is more powerful than money, and justice is worth waiting for.